can answer the question, Judge. You can't handle the truth.
I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
Rubs the lotion on its skin or else it gets the hose again.
Welcome to After Hours AM, The Criminal Code, with your hosts, Joel Sturgis, Eric Olson, and Dr. Clarissa Cole.
Well. Welcome to this edition of After Hours AM. Hey, it's Wednesday. That means true crime. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis, right along with me.
Eric Olson and
Dr. Clarissa Cole.
Dr. Cole, Mr. Olson, how are you guys doing tonight?
quite well, thank you. Excited about the Halloween season finally coming not to an end, but coming to a full boil.
Yeah, it's only a week away now. Just a week. That's it. A week away, and I can steal candy, and it'll be a great time. You know, I love the people that put the bowl outside their house, saying only take one. You know, the On Your Honor bowl. I love those.
Oh, that is so not me. I'm like, don't try to reach in here yourself.
Well, you know, the reason why a lot of people do that is the endless knocking and doorbell ringing. I mean, I get the logic.
You have to hide. That's why you have to hide in the bushes and scare the heck out of the kids. Come on, that's how it's done.
Do you do that?
Heck
Dr.
yeah.
Cole, is that to ensure future patients? Bah!
No, I always, if it's very small kids, no, we're very careful not to scare them. But no, older kids, oh yeah, I'm going to scare you in every way possible.
But the small ones are the impressionable ones that, you know, you can really warp them really quickly.
It's true.
So
I try not.
You might be wasting your time going after the big ones. You need the little ones.
I know. But one year, one of the kids cried.
And peed himself. There was a puddle on the front
made
porch.
Me so bad. I felt so bad. Yeah. I never quite got over that. Yeah.
You know, 1 year, really quickly, I got to tell this tale. When I was in my, I suppose, early 20s, I sat on the porch of my house dressed like a scarecrow, like perfectly still. And I waited for these small children to get close because I put the bowl of candy right next to me. And it said, only take one. And they showed up, and the first kid to grab a handful went, "Hey, what are you doing?" Oh, that poor kid. I think he had an out-of-body experience right there. I mean, he stopped, turned all white, cried, ran away. His mother yelled at me, "How dare you scare him?" I said, "How dare he be a thief?"
You're on solid ground there. I agree with this.
Right? See?
Yeah.
See? Right? Only take one. You take a handful?
Obey.
You got punishment coming your way.
Obey the rules.
I would have been thinking on the spot there, Joel. I would have been like, he never learned to read.
He never learned to read. Well, he was like 2. You know, I suppose I should have given him a little slack. He was just a little 2-year-old. But you know what? 2 or 22, theft is still theft.
I'll tell you, last year we had the twins visiting from Finland, and it was so fun taking them around. I mean, they were only about, let's see, they were just over 1, so they were still quite little. But just the look, the saucer, their eyes, the size of it, just seeing the costumes and the lights and the candy and everything else. We had a ball just going around and showing them off. And, of course, I don't really have any really little kids of my own anymore. Last year Alex was 13. Yeah, technically. I think he came with us and participated to a certain extent. But now he's 14. That's kind of the tail end of what's acceptable, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well,
I know. It's so sad.
Are you going to dress those twins up and make them say red rum, red rum?
Eventually, when they're large enough, but they are male and female.
Well, I'll still work. You know, who cares? You know, get them together and have them say red rum, red rum, red rum.
That would be freaky.
I find that pretty creepy, actually.
That would be creepy.
Yeah,
Little kids are creepy. They are. They can be very creepy.
Oh yeah, especially if you can like get them to do something in tandem, even creepier.
I remember years ago, I had a little kid. I think maybe all three looked at an older person I knew, and he just looks at him and says, "You're gonna die soon." Wow! Just that little kid voice. You're gonna die soon.
No, it's like I think I told you guys this story when my little brother Jamie, who is almost 20 years younger than me, just so the audience is aware, he's almost 20 years.
Wow, that's a big gap.
Huge gap. So we're sitting in the back of the car going somewhere with the family, right? And he's in his car seat, so he must have been like 3.5, sitting there in the car seat, and he's talking about, because we just watched like a Disney movie or something, he's talking about one day he's going to build a castle and he's going to live in that castle and blah blah blah. And I go, oh, I said, well, hopefully someday you'll let me live in the castle with you or next door. And he just looked over and said, oh, you'll be dead by then.
Oh.
Swear to God.
Oh, that is brutal. Brutal.
But the best part about it is that he said it in a way that it looked like he felt sorry for me. You know what
That's
I mean?
even worse.
Like, oh, you'll be dead by then. It's like,
I'm so sorry, but
wow.
you're going to be a worm bait by then. Sorry about that, but we'll be thinking of you.
I'd be happy to have you, but...
Yeah, you're going to be dead.
Best thing. Of course, now that he's so much older, he's like, I never said that. I'm like, oh, trust me. You said that. Everyone heard you.
You can be dead soon. What's it like in the prisons on Halloween? Does anything happen? Do they do the monster mash or anything?
No, and obviously costumes and things aren't allowed. But is there candy and some general talk of it? Yeah, but the holidays. No, I mean the holidays of any kind are really difficult for guys that are locked up because they remember their kids and they don't get to be around them. So generally the holidays pass without a lot of fanfare just because it's hard for people. So
Christmas is definitely a no-go in the old pen.
Oh man, it can be extremely rough on people that are locked up. So it's not that we don't say Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays depending on what you celebrate, but it just kind of goes by usually because it's very depressing if you don't hear from people.
I would stop and I'd say, see, had you not committed that damn crime, you wouldn't be in here. You'd be enjoying your nice Thanksgiving meal. What do you think about that?
See, exactly why you're not working in a prison, I'm thinking.
That's true.
Yeah.
They would shiv me in the first week. I'd be a dead man. They would have me I'd be done. Yeah, that'd be it for me. I'd be the most hated guard ever.
Oh, don't say that. Don't say that. Although, speaking of morbid things that you can do, I saw this. I don't know if you guys had talked about this already. The challenge that Six Flags had.
Oh yeah. Go ahead. I did read a little bit.
I do it, and now it's too late to get in on it because I didn't know about it. Is that if you could sleep in a coffin, if you can tough it out in a coffin for 30 hours, you'll get $300. And I'm like, oh my God, done.
Okay, did anybody do it, or has not happened quite yet?
I don't know. I think it's your shot to register was October 3rd, so I missed it, and I'm like, this I could do standing on my head, not literally, but yeah, this would be easy. Oh
no, 30 hours in a casket.
Yeah, we discussed that. That is very low pay.
It really is. It's $10 an hour.
Pay, but could I bring my laptop and do work? It would be
but no,
problem.
Wait a minute. Yeah, but. The guy at the gas station's making more than you are. $10 an hour plus. You'd be taking a pay cut of $10 an hour doing your work, Clarissa. Think about it. You bring your laptop, you're working for $10 an hour.
I guess I'm saying that I would try to be double dipping. You know what I mean? I'd be working for my day job and just hanging out in a coffin. No problem.
Hanging out in a coffin. I'm making $10 an hour in this coffin right now.
I sleep like the dead anyway. This is no problem for me.
Wow. Well,
this is the challenge for you.
Yeah.
This is not a challenge for me at all. As long as it's somewhat comfortable, I'm good.
We should make some phone calls then. We should make some phone calls and see if there's anyone near you that owns a casket, A, and B, would be willing to let you sleep in it for 30 hours.
Well, they'd have to pay me too.
Oh, come on. The bragging rights at that point.
I don't know. I mean, I just feel like I'd have to get something for my trouble. But
I'll give you $2 an hour. All right.
I think it sounds like a Kickstarter event to me.
I do for charity though. We should do for some of it, a lot for charity.
For charity. Oh, absolutely. That's not a problem. Yeah.
We'll do some calling. We'll do some calling this week, or and we'll see if we can arrange something of that way. Maybe we just can. Who knows?
Okay. All right.
We know a lot of people. So.
You do know a lot of people. I'm a little bit scared about it, but as long as I'm like relatively reassured that I'm not going to be buried right then and there, I'm good.
We can't promise that, but we will put a dead ringer in for you in case that does happen.
I don't know. See, any sort of like dirt, if I hear dirt falling on top of it, I'm out of there.
Oh, I would so do that to you too. I really would. I'd start sprinkling dirt on the top. Yep.
Yeah. No, that would freak me out. That would freak me out.
Okay, so you're telling us right here live on air that if we were to arrange it for charity, you would spend 30 hours in a coffin.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, totally.
All right. We're going to see whether or not we can make that happen.
Yeah, I think that's especially if it was for like a good charity.
And we'll webcam
for mental health.
And we'll webcam
how bored y'all will be?
Facebook Live. Here we come. Just to see the headlines now. Dr. Cole goes in the coffin for 30 hours. She goes insane. She may come out insane. Mwah!
It would be the most boring camera ever. I'd be sleeping through half of it, at least.
Well, we'd have to, we'd do something. Maybe we'd have a comedian come in, break up the monotony once in a while, tell some jokes.
Yes, she's now on her laptop checking time cards.
She's on Facebook right now.
This is fascinating.
This is a great time. Look at her go. Who knew she could type that fast? Oh, boy. Yeah. All right, Dr. Cole. We're going to see what we can get done. For real.
Yes. I've got, before I get to your, you know what? Actually, maybe we should get to this story first because the rest of them are just a little bit too gruesome and we won't be able to come back to it. So this is a story that you originally shared, Joel.
I did.
I did. I would like you to repeat what you said about it. It is a man that, what did he do to this establishment, this heralded establishment?
First, I got to say, full disclosure, I love the Burger King. To me, it is like a church. You just don't show up to Burger King and destroy the Burger King. That's like going to Mecca and urinating on the bricks. All right? You just don't do that. All right? This guy shows up. Man yelled racial slurs, wipes penis on window of Maplewood Burger King. And Maplewood's here in my state of Minnesota. And so that was kind of a big deal. I read that news. And the guy shows up yelling racial slurs. I'm going to actually read it here for everybody. A man who allegedly caused a disturbance on consecutive days. See, now it's not just one incident. It's multiple. And that's what even makes it more heinous. Not only one day did he come, but he came multiple days to, again, soil the sanctity. Exactly. It's hallowed ground. On consecutive days, at Twin Cities Burger King has been charged with threats of violence. The alleged target for Ryan Wayne Lewis Iyer was the Burger King at 2440 White Bear Avenue, North Maplewood, Minnesota, which he arrived there at October 17th and the 18th. On the 17th, around 9:30 p.m., Lewis 40 of Nevis, Minnesota, which, quite honestly, I'd go to stories about Nevis, but I won't, was drunk and allegedly threatened to kill people in the restaurant. Well, I suppose they're like, whatever, you little man, get out of here. This is hallowed ground. Get out of here. He had earlier gone into the restaurant to use the restroom and yelled to everyone inside the using racial slurs, which I will just leave to your imagination. When an employee asked him to leave, he shoved the mop of a worker. He shoved this worker, that's like assaulting a priest right there.
Yeah.
The mop of he shoved the mopping worker to the floor before he is forcibly removed by other staff. It was at this point that Lewis allegedly took out his penis. I'm sorry, kids. If you got kids in the room, just cover their ears. It gets worse from here. All right? Here we go. And wiped it on the glass window before threatening to kill everybody of the BK, man. He
was attempting the very difficult wiener window watch.
While he was screaming threats. I mean, that's talent.
Tough combo.
That's what it was. That's exactly.
That's hard to pull off.
That's not as easy as you would think.
I heard they're adding it to the next Olympics.
Lewis was outside holding a 2-inch knife. Thank God it was the knife in his hand when the police were called. But he had gone by that time when the officers arrived. The next day, Lewis again shows up, returns through the drive-thru in his Chevy. Exactly, Chevy Trailblazer spitting on the service window.
Well, but he said, okay, in his defense, he said that the second day when he returned, he was just looking to get food. So
really, so he stopped and starts spitting at people. Come on.
I might have taken a break from that particular Burger King.
I would.
Right?
I would.
24 hours later, I might have gone elsewhere. Maybe even another Burger King.
I know. And in a like metropolitan area, they have to be everywhere. Like, what's your fixation on this one?
It gets better, though. He parked a Chevy, grabbed something out of his truck that resembled a gun before making a gun gesture with his hand as he drove away. Real tough guy. I'm going to get you as he's driving away. Come on. When police tracked him down at a Home Depot this past Sunday, they found a metal bar in his trunk resembling a gun. Lewis has been charged with 2 counts of threats of violence, told police that he was in a bad mood on the 17th and admits yelling racial slurs and said he returned the next day because he was hungry, yes, but the workers refused to serve him. No kidding. Really? Would you serve him too if he came back? I saw your junk last night, and let me tell you, man, that was disgusting. It was wrong. You need to clean up. It was just bad.
Voice used.
Exactly.
I mean, clearly, it sounds like there might be some form of mental illness or drug abuse going on.
Gee,
I hope they get him help.
I wonder if there's maybe a little mental health issue or drug abuse going on.
Just a little.
I wonder if he was wiping his genitalia on the window, whether he said, "You like that, eh? You betcha you do."
Well, what is he from Canada or Wisconsin?
Well,
You're trying to make fun of him.
It's close enough. It's close enough.
He said, "Have I got a Whopper for you?"
Oh,
I got cheese on that. Okay, all right. That's the tale of the holy ground that is Burger King.
There is a story that I wanted to share because, you ever see those stories and you're like, boy, this was just made for, being on the air, or like I had to tell this story so much because the second I saw it, I just knew.
Yeah,
it was like that.
Yeah, there are those stories.
Is it flame broiled?
It is not, but it is inflatable.
Is it had your way?
It is not. It's giant. It's inflatable, and it's from Kansas.
Oh wow, that can only be one thing.
Those are some of my favorite words.
It is a giant inflatable colon worth $4,000.
How is an inflatable colon worth $4,000?
Well, because there's a lot of inflating involved.
Okay, first of all, like those like bouncy house things, like those are much more expensive than people would think. And I think that this is made out of that sort of
They're bouncing through a colon.
Bouncy colon.
Hey kids, this is how
I'm like, what? So
I'm Billy the Bouncy Colon.
So
come on in.
Inflatable colon mysteriously disappeared in Kansas.
How does a giant colon just disappear out of nowhere?
It's $4,000. It weighs 150 pounds and it's 10 feet long.
Well, the giant took it back.
That's where that went.
Obviously.
I'm never going to Mexico again.
So my question is, like, the person that stole this, were they thinking, oh, right, I finally found a free bouncy house for my kids, and then they started inflating it, and they were like,
Yep,
Wait,
but
is
Clarissa,
it?
you're missing the point. It's not only as a bouncy house, but it's an educational bouncy house.
It is educational because there are various things on it, like advanced colon cancer and polyps and
God.
Crohn's disease. Yeah, all on the side of this colon.
Sure.
It's like a journey.
Yeah, you walk through. You're supposed to walk. I swear, I kid you not, people. You were supposed to walk through the colon.
Boy, this story really stinks. Let me tell you.
And they did a GoFundMe account, and so far, only $150 has been raised for its replacement.
Oh,
and
they
I
never
can't
caught
imagine-
him. Oh,
No.
Okay, how do you not catch the man with the giant colon? All right.
Loose stool.
Good Lord, like, I mean, you can't exactly blow it up and put it in your backyard. It's a giant colon. Like, what do you?
Not be very good at parties. Let me tell you.
It went the same place as stolen old master art. You know,
The underground.
Went into the man cave of some billionaire, some evil billionaire.
Going excellent as he's blowing up his colon.
Oh, like
Smithers.
the old art.
Bigger than I thought.
I mean, the old art. At least there's a market for that. What are you going to do with this?
A $4,000 inflatable colon.
I'll tell you what. You find that giant who's missing it, and he'll pay big.
Oh, he will. Hold it for ransom. Yeah.
Fee-fi, fo-fum. Bring my colon or I'll kick your bum.
Yeah, it's missing somebody. So apparently somebody showed up to this event, which, I mean, in its defense, was a cancer fundraising event for cancer, right? They arrived in a pickup truck with the deflated colon because they were going to blow it up and put it on display, and somebody stole it out of the back of a pickup truck.
What?
Wow.
Dang.
Man.
Yeah, I know.
That would be hard. How does not somebody notice you're stealing a colon, though?
150 pounds.
Yeah. How does no one's... Hey, is that our colon going down the highway with the back of that truck?
You know, though, I have to say that if I let's say next to said pickup truck, it's not that I wouldn't call the cops, but I think that there's a large piece of me that really.
I was gonna say it sounded like you dropped there for a minute. You got to that part where you said there's a large piece of me, and you left. Like, did that part leave?
No, I feel like I'd be so interested in what type of felon would want to steal this thing. Like,
Well.
do you really want to be going to prison for grand theft for stealing an inflatable colon?
I don't think you'd do really well in the pokey with stealing a colon.
Right?
I think you would win the prize.
You would, of the
For
strangest
the
crime of the week.
Oddest conviction of the week, yes.
You would win some sort of prize, yeah.
Wrecked him, damn near killed him.
And actually, let me see if I can send this to you, because this leads me to another story that I'm not totally sure if it is, say, a crime or not, but it's one of those things that happens that I think that if it was investigated enough, it probably could be
They would
investigated
find something
as a
illegal.
crime. Not the colon one. This has to do with the U.S. Consulate. It's an ambassador.
Really?
So the U.S., I think, where is it? It's Australia, right? So we've got the U.S. Ambassador to. We haven't had one to Australia for a couple of years, right? The longest
Sure.
stretch since World War II, and they were going to have like a meeting for the Australian ambassador to America, and so they were sent.
Wait, that's your colon connection. They're going to bring that over.
Maybe they're like, let me teach you something you need to know about.
Sorry, I
this
didn't mean
is what's
Sorry,
this is what's happening. No, so basically, we haven't had an ambassador there for a while, and they were like, "Hey, we've got to do some trainings and get some trainings going on here." And so they are training a person on the email search, and so they sent out basically a consulate-wide email newsletter on the official newsletter platform. And I sent you guys over Skype just now what was sent out. I don't know if you can see it.
Well, we're
A
going to
message
check
form.
that out right now.
That appears to be
Oh my God.
kitty
That's a cat holding tater tots.
dressed as Cookie Monster.
It is indeed. It is specifically a tabby cat dressed in a onesie, a Cookie Monster onesie, holding what appears to be a plate of cookies.
Cookies.
Yeah.
What gave it away for me?
Wait. Why? Why would they want to?
It's a cat pajamagram, and they were sending it out. Pajama jam. The message included the words in Latin and an RSVP button for the jam. This is what was sent out from the U.S. State Department.
Oh, so they're using valuable taxpayer resources to send kitties in pajamas to Australia.
Tell me that's not the cutest thing you've ever seen, though. I mean,
this is
cute.
Messed up. And then we wonder why our government's so inefficient. They're sending kittygrams everywhere.
I saw it, though, and immediately laughed. So it brightened my day. I mean...
Oh, yeah, it's hilarious as all hell. It really is, and it's cute. That's a cute cat and all, if you're into cats, but... Wow, what a strange thing to send. And what was the response from the
State Department representative? And I'm going to name the guy because I got to. Gavin Sundwall tells everyone that it was a training error made by one of our new staff testing out our email newsletter platform.
Yes, always the new guy. It's always the new guy that gets blamed.
Rectum, damn near killed.
And there's the connection.
and they said Mashable adds the photo was likely taken by Jennifer Stewart of Melbourne. Her photos of onesie-clad cats posted to Instagram accounts are relatively famous.
Well, I bet they are.
Well, now they're even more famous. So congratulations. Yeah.
Yes.
Congratulations. The U.S. State Department sent a Cookie Monster cat.
And now
everywhere.
For the rest of the story.
Y'all.
Yeah, right.
So I don't know that that's against the law, but
I would think it would be ultimately there's a cost that was wasted here of taxpayer money, right? I mean, really, there was.
Well, I mean, just the fact that if this is let's say you are training a new person, like that's the thing, and you're like, hey, this is the email account for everyone. It's our newsletter platform. And that person decides to send the Cookie Monster cat. My guess is you are not A, recruiting well, B, training well, C, vetting well. Figure this out, people. You're the State Department.
Yeah, I would. They kind of lost a little bit of my, a little bit of my trust. Not that they had a lot to begin with.
I was going to say they had almost no credibility to begin with.
No.
Takes all of it. Yeah,
it's gone now.
Yeah,
it's gone now.
If Australia ever wants to attack us, they'll be scared of our onesie-clad cats.
They'll be sending kitties over to attack us, thinking that's our soldiers. They only have cats for soldiers.
But perhaps the truly relevant item is the cookies. You haven't really mentioned the cookies.
No, that's
because I want to eat the cookies. I love cookies. I mean, if they came and attacked with cookies, we might be in trouble. Because I wouldn't want to kill people that brought cookies.
No.
Look this way. Ooh, cookies.
Although we did talk about, other things that people try to poison other people with, like, cheesecake.
Ash cookies?
A while back, remember, huh?
Yeah.
The lady with the cheesecake. All of that.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
If I'm in danger of some sort of criminal act, it's definitely poisoning.
Do not trust given freely sweets. Don't do it. They're
right on the brink of Halloween.
I'm just saying, don't trust if someone hands you a cookie, or if they hand you a cheesecake, and you don't like them, or they don't even know you, and they're from a high-powered place. You may not want to eat that.
Yeah, you might want to give them right to me.
I will. You can be the tester. You can be the tester.
I would totally, yes. Oh, I got it. Oh my God. A fundraiser in a coffin with cookies.
Maybe even a cat.
No. Cats and I don't always get along,
no?
But the cookies, yes.
Oh, well,
I'm allergic to cats. I adore cats. Cats like me too, but they like me too much. You know what I mean? Like when I'm like dying from hives and my throat closing up, cats are like, hey, how are you?
Yeah.
we haven't come
love
out
you.
From under the bed for 20 years, but we'd love to see you. Like that.
Come join us, Clarissa. Come join us.
I swear to God. Like, people are like, oh my God, my cat doesn't like anyone. I'm like, no, of course they like me. They know I'm going into anaphylactic shock right now.
We have cookies and catnip. Stop by.
Oh, no. Oh, you know what, though? Okay, so thank God when I first I did send you this story, which is kind of a little bit of a serious story again, but it's like I'm kind of starting to freak out, and I'm being serious when I say I'm kind of starting to freak out. Do you remember the funeral home one that I sent you guys last week
with the dead babies? Yeah.
Yeah, like there were 11 infants found in the ceiling.
Yeah.
So now, I guess in Detroit proper and in Michigan, they've started sending out officials, right, to like go to different funeral homes. A funeral home named Perry Funeral Home. So the last one was Cantrell. Perry Funeral Home, remains of 63 infants.
Well, what the heck's going on there? Now,
oh my God.
Another one? This is I thought the same funeral home and they were just finding more in the old crawl space.
No, and I didn't even have a chance to include this one, you guys, before you called me. There's a third in outside of Detroit, not connected to these two.
Makes me wonder what our local funeral home's doing. Dun dun
what
dun.
is going on, people? Wow. Why is this not a huge story everywhere? Why am I having 63 infants, 11 at one place, 2 at another place that I didn't even get a chance to include in the headlines I sent you?
Wow.
And then 60 at this one, and all these funeral homes are unaffiliated with each other.
But why babies?
I don't know.
You know why small children? Is it because they're easier to store? I mean, seriously, all joking aside, is that why they feel that they can do what they're doing because they're not as big?
Well, the way you were describing it last week, as far as how this kind of thing might happen, and I guess it's what their defense was, right? They were saying, yeah, well, we were taking them in for people who couldn't afford, and we were storing them for them with no refrigeration, of course,
in hefty bags.
And I mean, why is this going on all over Detroit? And is it just Detroit?
Sure hope so.
No, the other one was found also in Michigan, but it was 100 miles away from Detroit, and they found more infants in similar storage situations. And this last funeral home, one of the families was suing because they wanted the infant to be given to medical for medical. It died shortly. It was not quite stillborn, but died shortly after birth, which is a horrible, tragic circumstance. And God love these people that were going to donate their daughter's remains to science. And I very much look up to that. Just so you all know, I think it's an amazing thing to do. I am an organ donor. I would like to donate myself once I pass on. But they didn't give the infant to medical science. They threw it in a Tupperware container.
Oh, my good Lord.
Yeah. Along with 60 others.
Wow.
At Perry Funeral Home. So there's Perry and Cantrell, and there's no connection between the two. And there's another funeral home almost 100 miles north of Detroit where they found at least 2.
Well, that sure took the joy out of the room.
I'm sorry, but I'm like,
what I'm
freaked
saying
out.
is this is nuts. I mean, it's just deplorable. It's deplorable. It's horrible. I mean, wow. I mean, I can't wrap my mind. And all these families that their babies have passed on for whatever reason never got the closure either that they needed. I mean, it's beyond just the remains, but also it's a ripple effect. It goes even further. It goes deeper into the community as well. I mean, these infants are people, and they need to be put to rest.
Well, the other thing that's really, I guess, sort of upsetting to me is that they can't be charged with anything like murder, right? Because they didn't kill these children. The children had passed away already, and the conviction, right, for disposing of a body improperly, so desecration of a human corpse, okay, is usually what the statute would be, is in some cases it's a misdemeanor. I mean, this is I mean, some places have up to like maybe 7 years, $8,000 fine, that sort of a thing, but in some places it's almost nothing at all.
So I'll tell you what, though, 60 counts of it is going to add up.
Yeah, it will.
That's true.
Yeah, it will.
One can only hope. I mean, so far, the only news coming out of Detroit is that they've had their funeral home license pulled. Big deal. Oh my God!
Again,
Who
though,
cares?
what stops the smell if they're unrefrigerated? That's you would think that something would give off an odor. Bodies do not, decay and not smell.
You'd absolutely think so. I mean, the only thing I can think is that in certain environments, depending on how dry they are, a body can mummify, and with a body that's stored in a certain way, if not a lot of air is getting into the container, it could mummify rather quickly. It's the only thing I can think. And well, the other thought too is that if people don't know, if you've never been to a morgue, a proper morgue before, I'm not talking a funeral home where you go and you sit in and talk about caskets. I'm talking like the morgue where they process the bodies.
Sure.
The smells there, mostly of chemicals actually, but the smells there are pretty intense anyway. So those chemical smells really, I think, could cover the smell of decay. Yeah. If that's what you're smelling all the time. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the embalming process.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lot of that, and there's a lot of fresheners used and everything else. People put the Vicks underneath their nose. I do that if I go in an area like that, just to sort of, so you're not smelling the decay as much because you're already trying to get the smell to go away. But it's unbelievable. So I don't know what's happening in Michigan or Detroit, or I don't know who checks out funeral homes, but my gosh, do I want them to check out every single one of them.
I would hope so. I would hope that there would be, even deeper checks down in other states too.
Absolutely. If I was in a different state
checks.
hearing this, I'd be going in with cadaver sniffing dogs and going, I know you got cadavers in here, but I want to make sure you don't have any that aren't accounted for.
Yeah, we want to make sure there's none of your crawl space, all right? Come on.
Oh, God. So, I had to share that because it's breaking news. And like I said, the third one just came out right before the broadcast.
That is horrible. That is absolutely horrible. I mean, thank you for sharing it. And as hard as it is to talk about, it's a real issue. I mean, these bodies are not being taken care of the way they should be. It all comes down to dollar and cents. It all comes down to money. Isn't that? It does. That is as sad as anything else. That it's coming down to money.
And the thing that really bothers me too is that the more you erode the public trust in these types of things that happen, the less people feel safe to check that donor box on their driver's license, the less they feel safe to want to give their body to medical science. Like, we wouldn't have a crisis in this country of people dying from preventable things if more people were organ donors, but people are afraid to check that box because, one, of urban legends, but also because of stories like this. And that to me is tragic and unforgivable. One or two people ruin the public trust. That's what you're
very true, and it doesn't take much. I am surprised that they didn't cremate the infants. I really am. These funeral homes.
I agree. It's unbelievable to me. So anyway, if anybody else knows about that, shoot me a line. Tell me what's going on, because I don't understand it.
Yeah, that's insane. That is really, really insane.
Well, if it's really about money, then that's how they should hit them. That's how they get at them. Find them. Buy the body. Find them a lot. Buy the body. Yeah. That would take care of it, I would think.
You'd think. I mean, but they already have been shut down, so I feel like they already did the damage that they could do monetarily. Sure. But I think they should do some serious prison time. Absolutely.
I would agree.
There's no place for a person like that because, again, you're entrusting them with a loved one. So, horrible. But you know what? I did want to. This is a story in California. I don't usually share stories in California because
you're there.
I'm there, and I want to make sure I don't come in contact with the offender. I think I'll be okay in this case. So when you're in Northern California in particular, there is something out here that a lot of people for Halloween would be really afraid of. I am in Black Widow country.
Oh, you are now?
Oh, big time. Like, I find at least like one a day if I'm outside.
Wow.
Do you mean Scarlett Johansson?
That would be so cool. No, I don't. I run
ScarJo. Bummer.
No.
You're talking about the actual spider that'll kill you with a bite.
Correct. And it is like where I am located, there are Black Widows everywhere. So if I'm like working outside, it's not uncommon. 3, 4, 5 of them. It happens all the time. They're everywhere. So, but I mean, I'm just used to it at this point. And, well, Henry kills a lot of them. So, I'm like, oh my God, spider, and he kills it. So it's good. Yeah. So if I was by myself, though, in a house with a Black Widow, and I have been, right, I usually find something to dispatch it with love, of course, from...
You squash it, don't you? I love you! squash.
Right. Yes, I do. And I try to also not actually, I don't want to physically touch it with my fingers. You know what I mean? I want there to be like a shoe.
Do you have a designated?
Because, it's poisonous.
You don't have
Right.
You don't have a designated Black Widow beater?
I don't. I try to find the nearest shoe.
Okay.
The nearest hard-soled shoe is what I go for, right? So that's
All right.
just, I'm putting it out there, hard-soled shoe. But there was a California man who was house sitting for his parents in Fresno, all right, which is south of me. And he did not go for a shoe. What he did end up going for caused 29 firefighters to respond.
Oh, wow. Wow. That's a response to a spider.
Well, he decided to use a blowtorch.
Oh. Well,
Yeah.
that'll work to kill a spider, and it'll destroy your house. But yeah, spider's dead. That's the good news.
It was a 2-alarm blaze. The fire damaged the building's attic and the second story. The use of fire for pest control actually appears to be fairly common. What? Why is that in this article? I'm reading this article going, how is this common? So
I don't
apparently,
know. That's crazy.
yeah, a Kansas woman reportedly was hit with an arson charge after attempting to kill a spider with flaming towels.
Now, did she buy them that way?
So wait, yeah, I was gonna say, where do you buy flaming towels? Number one, is there a store called the Flaming Towel Store? And how do you keep them
Flaming
lit?
towels are us.
Yeah, and how do you keep them lit until you're ready to use them? That'd be hard as well.
I think they freeze them.
They freeze dry them, the flame and all. So she sees the spider. All right, I'm gonna use the flaming towel.
This is the problem-solving steps that you have to go through, though, is what I'm asking. Like, you see the spider. Oh, my God, spider. I need to kill it. Where does the problem-solving go after that?
How does it escalate that quickly to going, I know fire?
Towels catch on fire. I'll throw flaming towels. Well, what?
Wow.
Yeah. He almost burned his parents' house down. And then there was a Cincinnati woman who caused $250,000 worth of damage to an apartment building when she tried to use alcohol and fire.
Well, that will do it too. They do sell insecticide for this job. Where maybe you could.
You set it on fire?
No. I would recommend. I mean, you could, but if you're going to do that, use a Zippo lighter. Don't use a normal Bic, by the way, folks. But anyhow, little tip. You guys never made your own flamethrower? Come on, Aquanet days. Lighter, some Aquanet. Eric, I know you did.
I'm more into explosives.
I know you are. But back in the day, when everyone's mother used that 25-gallon bottle of Aquanet,
yes,
that made a hell of a flamethrower. Let me tell you.
I'm betting it does. See, I know my luck with things like that. I would not try because I know what would happen.
It would be great. It's great. I mean, it's epic. And it goes a long time because it's a huge bottle. So, it really gets out there.
Interesting. Well, maybe that's what he tried. I don't know. It doesn't really say, you just have a flamethrower around the house? It doesn't say how he created.
You know what's funny is it's completely legal to own a flamethrower.
What?
Yeah, you can actually own one. Anyone can own one.
Are you serious?
Dead serious. It's completely legal. You can own one. You can buy one. You can construct one.
I would love to see the person's face
when
I go in and ask for one.
There's no laws saying you cannot own a flamethrower. In fact, a little fun fact, when I was a kid and I grew up in a farming community, they'd burn the field, some people, with a flamethrower.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We used to have controlled burns all the time. I just assumed it wasn't with a flamethrower. But
these guys did that. They're a little nuts, though. Come on. I think grain alcohol was included when they were doing it. But anyhow,
grain alcohol and napalm.
Oh, man. I love the smell of napalm.
You know what? Nobody said if the spider died at night, and all I can imagine is a black widow in his charred rubble going, I love the smell of napalm in the morning. That's how I think that story ended.
Smoking a cigar. Yeah.
With a surfboard.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's how that story ends, everyone. Yeah.
Oh, yes. Playing the Trashman in the background. Bird, bird, bird. Bird's the word of a bird.
And there was, I don't want to leave it in California because there's a story out of New Jersey that is kind of gross.
Is this the, is the thrower man? No, that's Florida. Never mind.
No, it's Florida. This guy, and this is very odd. I have to share it only because of the name, the moniker that they gave him. So in New Jersey, there was, so like the track field and the football field and all that.
I do.
So, like how kids go out there for practice every day, right? So they go out on the field almost daily, and they started realizing that human feces had been left on the field, like almost daily, right? Sparking a hunt for the, quote, mystery pooper, right?
There's a mystery pooper on the lar. He's that large.
I like the notion of sparking a hunt.
That's what happened. It sparked a hunt. So basically, this has been happening on the regular on the football field. Okay, so everybody in the school
50-yard
is
line, big old
yes,
steamer.
everybody's looking. And so there's this person that eventually got arrested. And would either of you like to share his nickname? Did you see that in the article?
Go ahead, Eric. I know this is one that you have to share.
Do I have to do that?
You do.
That would mean I'd have to go look at the story.
Oh, I see how you are.
I much rather respond spontaneously.
All right. The mystery pooper.
The mystery pooper, he was the ex-superintendent of the school, so he was called the pooperintendent.
All right, now I have it open.
Oh, now you have it open. Thank you for joining the rest of us.
I can only have my computer. Speaking of irritating computers, lately I've only been able to have a very small number of windows open at the same time, or mine freezes as well.
Well, it's a Mac. What do you expect?
We can't have.
So they call him the pooperintendent. He pled guilty, right? So what's he being?
Plead guilty.
So what's the poop on the scoop? What's he gonna be charged with?
It's odd. They're going to go to trial with some allegations about specific dates because they have GPS evidence from his running watch.
Oh my gosh! How about?
So they're serious.
Are they getting exhibits too? Here's Exhibit A.
But it seems really, really serious that they're taking this, so they charged him.
I wouldn't take his crap.
He's separated from his job and all that. So I don't know exactly, but I mean, that's the thing. Like, you're indecent in public. You could have indecent exposure as a charge, technically.
Yeah, you could, but
it's a sex offense in some places. So,
well, that's the thing, though. Here's the deal: is what possessed the man with all the power to stop and take a dump on the 50-yard line or wherever it was? What would possess a grown man to stop and do that? Is there a disorder anywhere in the DCM that would tell you how nuts he is?
The DSM, yes. And actually there are multiple, but do I think he has any of those disorders? No. I mean, there's things like coprophagia and all that, which you don't even want to know.
Well, that's one of my favorite words.
Yeah, I like that one. I'm going to start using that all over the place now. Coprophagia.
Yeah. No, there's things like that. And I don't know that he's, honestly, I think he's just angry for some reason.
Well, look at him.
Yeah, his lawyer, because, okay, first of all, there's this idea anyway that, like, primates, right, when they get really angry or they're trying to defend, they will
throw poop.
They'll poop and they will throw it, right? It's a defense mechanism.
I know.
And it's often done out of anger.
We've all been to the zoo. We've all been to the zoo.
Yeah, so I mean, is this guy doing that? I don't know. His lawyer is saying that he got a form of I didn't know this was a thing. I'm just repeating it. Runner's diarrhea?
Is he crap out of luck?
Runner's diarrhea.
Yeah, like he's a runner and that he gets this like
what?
No, I'm running.
I'm running
down my leg.
I need to stop.
What, like you always have to stop on the football field? Is that how that works? Like, that doesn't quite seem to add up, and that's what his lawyer.
No,
that seems rather convenient.
It does. It does.
Extremely convenient.
Could you imagine that defense, though? Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I submit exhibit number 1.
I wouldn't want to be anywhere near this case. Like, as a lawyer, like, if I ever get picked for a jury.
No, it's number 2.
I can smell the justice in the air, let me tell you.
It's unbelievable. So, like, his entire career is ruined. His name is ruined because he was really angry and felt the need to do this.
He looks mad. He looks like a very angry man.
He does look very angry.
He does. He looks like he has issues. He looks like he has a lot of issues. All right. Where would you like to go? We got 10 minutes left.
Not as many issues as the Florida man that is dancing on a police car to summon help in a vampire battle.
Help! They're fighting and they're vampires.
I just saw that headline when I, opened up that email, and I thought, I hope we're going to cover that.
Do you know what's interesting for me about this story, though? It's not the headline of the Florida man dancing on a police car to summon help in a vampire battle that got me. That's not what got me.
Say that 10 times fast.
Yeah, it's the fact that he was dancing to Rich Girl by Hall & Oates.
Oh,
that's what got me.
She's a rich girl.
And it's gone too far, and I know it don't matter anyway.
Yeah, yes. I'm like,
rely on the old man's money.
Yeah, you rely on the old man. I'm like, dude, I have to see this story now.
And
like,
he was. Look at him. There's a little video there. I'm watching him dance about.
Yeah.
Wow. Man.
I know. And then the next song that comes on, no lie, is Supertramp's Goodbye Stranger. And he gets down. Like, it takes him a while to get down to the second one because it's kind of a slow jam.
Oh, it is.
I mean?
It simmers. It does go somewhere. It's,
we get to that refrain, though?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So now, he was allegedly doing this to get the police's attention about a vampire fight.
Well, it's odd because I believe that the sheriff probably lives at this house. You know what I mean?
I was going to say, it looks parked.
In a driveway. Yeah, it's parked. He comes up to the back of the sheriff's car, almost touching it with his vehicle, and cranks up the volume on his radio and hops up onto the roof of the sheriff's vehicle to dance. And he said that he was prompted to break out in this dance after being scared away from his own home by a woman with fangs.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
This story's like an onion.
It is. And man, that guy's just a going.
It has many layers.
He's just a going. This video was great.
I know. The woman was threatening him, he said, and he believed a human sacrifice was about to occur involving vampires. And he needed the sheriff of Nottingham to help him stop the slaughter of small children.
Sheriff of Nottingham.
Which, of course, would involve dancing to Hall & Oates.
Yes, it's a rhythmic. It's a rhythmic call for help.
Now, wait a minute. There seem to be some mixed metaphors here.
Well, that part is true, but he does have rhythm, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, for a white boy, he dances pretty good.
He does actually, right?
He does.
I like the second one where it takes him a while. Like he's just kind of
it's a slow simmer. He does. I like how he makes the hands. Raise the roof. That one movie's doing.
Yep.
So he's got that all go. You guys got to go look at this video. For anyone that wants to go take a look, it's the Huffington Post. Go click on that vampire hunter dance. Take a gander at that. That is insane. That's so stupid. What's he being charged with, though?
You know what's interesting about this is that, I mean, obviously we are making fun, but I mean, clearly, based on the details, he is mentally ill.
Oh,
right?
Yeah, clearly.
So I would hope, honestly, that they really wouldn't charge him with much of anything. There was no property damage. No person was injured.
Again, much like the child stealing my candy. They have to learn.
He does a delightful dance on top of a car, and no one's injured in the process. So.
Well, what about that vampire?
Yeah.
Well, he stopped the vampire by doing the dance. Haven't you been paying attention?
Gotcha.
Gotcha. He should be thanked and rewarded.
He should be.
Exactly.
With a new Hall & Oates CD. The newest one from 1983.
I love that song. That's what got me to click on the article when it said the Hall & Oates. I was like, oh, yeah. I got to see this.
Wow.
So, yeah. I don't know what he was charged with. I do hope he got treated. Clearly, it seems like it's a psychotic disorder.
Clarissa, you need to go to YouTube and look up something called Yacht Rock. It's been around a long time, so it's been years. But
what is it called?
Yacht Rock.
How do you spell it?
Yacht, like the boat.
Yacht. Like a boat.
You know what I'm talking about, right, Eric?
Yacht Rock.
Yeah, Yacht Rock, where they have the Hall & Oates battle in the alley against Kenny Loggins. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's so smooth.
Kenny Loggins. It is. It's smooth and wonderful. Although, if you're Brett Kavanaugh, apparently you get in fights on yachts
Yeah. Yes.
So it doesn't matter.
Exactly. You got to watch the video. It's not referring actually to the boat. It's referring to the giant hits they had in the early '80s and late '70s.
It's become a subgenre of music.
Exactly.
It's like it's a channel on
Yacht Rock.
Sirius XM.
Sailing away. Yeah, all that stuff.
Oh, I actually like that song.
Yeah. Like McDonald, whatever his first name is. He's a big one. Michael McDonald. Yes,
McDonald,
exactly. Yes, go check out Yacht Rock YouTube. Anyone that's listening right now, if you haven't seen it, I know it's old, so it's been around 10, 15 years. But go check it out. It is still hilarious as all hell. We got time for one, maybe two more, Clarissa.
All right. Well, let's talk about the New Hampshire. The New Hampshire police are still seeking this person. This only happened 24 hours ago. Okay. Oh. Yeah. New Hampshire is they see an unidentified man. So he's still out there. He's still on the loose. He was caught. Yeah, on surveillance footage, pouring maple syrup all over a police cruiser.
Oh, man, those poor cop cars are having a rough night.
And then eating it with a knife and fork.
It is New Hampshire.
He did not eat the cruiser. No, he somewhat sort of lackadaisically, really. He doesn't seem terribly angry, but he pours a perfectly good bottle of maple syrup all over the police vehicle.
I don't know what to be mad about. I don't know. I should be, the waste of food, or is the cruiser getting dirty?
How do you solve this? What do you do? Do you just run it through a car wash? Does that even work?
Very hot water.
Yeah, a lot of hot water. They caught the guy, you said, right? Or no, he's at large. He's at large. Okay.
He's at large, yeah. You can see the video.
Well,
you can go online, and they have a phone number to call in case you know.
I would start looking at the local IHOP. Look for a man with an affinity for maple syrup. Mm-hmm. And go from there. And question everybody in the IHOP. Show the picture. Have you seen this man with this maple syrup?
Or if there are any recent maple syrup assaults on humans?
They better get the guys in the field to check all the grocery stores to make sure there's no thefts of any maple syrup.
And they should ask all the trees if anyone stole any sap from them.
Can they run a trace on said maple syrup? Get the boys down the lab on this.
An expert taster comes in. Oh, I know where this is from.
Maple DNA.
This is a Vermont gold. Yes.
And you know what? If these crime stories this week have taught me anything, it's that if you ask, sometimes you will get surprising results because there was a group of criminals. I'm talking a group, 6 of them in Belgium. Okay, where they were trying to rob a store. They came 6 guys. Come to rob a store. 6 of them. Okay, now
a small army.
That is a small theft army, isn't it?
And I would be. I would be afraid if 6 guys showed up. I'd be afraid.
That's more like a league of evil, is what that is. That's a league of evil.
A bowling team with backups. I don't know what's happening. So they all come to rob this e-cigarette shop owner.
Oh.
Who is identified simply as Didier. And so they're armed, okay? They show up outside of his store, and he says, I told them clearly that 3 p.m. is not the best time to hold up a store.
I told them clearly.
Yeah, clearly I told them it's the wrong time.
I told them if they came back later on, that there would be more euros to hand over. And to his surprise,
they came back.
They agreed, and they left.
And did they come back at 6:30 though?
Well, so here's the thing. So Didier calls the cops, right? And the cops are like, dude, they're not going to come back, right? So as he's waiting for the cops to show up, they come back at 5:30, and he says he shook their head and said, I berated them, saying, you have to buy a watch. I told you to come back at 6:30 when the store was closing, so they left and came back again.
Well, they got some polite thieves in Belgium.
Yeah, well, evidently those criminals are very nice.
Yeah, well, in plainclothes, cops
obedient.
Very much so.
There, the cops showed up. Yeah, the cops showed up at 6:30, and they're like, "Dude, they're not going to show up." They show up. So yeah,
they nabbed him at that point.
They did. They nabbed him on time.
Yeah. Well, it's very important to be on time. Let me tell you that.
And apparently they were punctual the third time.
They're punctual felons, is what they are.
Yeah. Yeah, but I'm like, imagine having the guts that guy had to look at 6 armed robbers and go, "Hey, I told you 6:30."
I told you come back. That I like the little footnote at the end. At least they weren't throwing bricks at bulletproof glass.
Well, that was another guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't get to share his story because you know why? I've actually seen that too many times for it.
Is that the one of the brick hits him in the head when he throws it?
And he passes out.
Yeah, they come in and catch him. Yeah.
And that's the quickest karma I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah, that's instant karma. That's no waiting around. We got to run a break, and when we come back, we're going to tackle the strange case that is Andrew Hardman. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back right after this.
Hi, Tom Bodette. If you can hear me, then you have an internet connection, which means you can do cool things online, like listen to streaming radio, obviously, or watch a video of a monkey washing a cat. Let your freak flag fly. Or you can book a room at a great price at Motel6.com. Isn't the internet wonderful? Everything you want right at your fingertips, and whoa, did not need to see that. I'm Tom Bodette for Motel 6, and we'll leave the light on for you.
Unexpected reactions to smart financial decisions brought to you by feedthepig.org.
Well, I finally did it. My student loan is totally paid off.
I can't believe it.
I can't believe it either. I paid more than the minimum each month, and soon enough, it was gone.
So you're just giving up?
Giving up on what?
The life of luxury. Egyptian cotton, caviar Thursdays, designer everything.
What are you talking about?
Our plan. What happened to winning the lottery and mastering the art of the perfect mimosa? Hosting galas, wearing enough jewelry to require a bodyguard, vacationing in the French Riviera, and then buying it.
I just thought maybe it was time to prepare for my future. You know, set some financial goals, make some smart investments, open a 401k.
Financial goals? Investments? A 401k? You are horrifying right now. Listen, if winning the lottery were easy, everyone would do it.
When it comes to financial stability, don't get left behind. Get tools and tips for saving at feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
Northern Tool and Equipment.
So me and the boys head out to tailgate today and find some other fans in our spot.
Well, it happens.
Cheering for the wrong team.
Oh, this is war.
Even worse, they've got this couch set up and everything.
A couch?
Yeah, it's sectional.
All right, first thing, don't ever use the word sectional again.
Done.
Second, I want you to grab a 4,700-pound tow chain with J-hook and grab hammer. Throw that on the back of your truck.
Got it.
Now you're going to Hail Mary the J-hook over the end of that couch. Time to find a better spot for your new friends.
That should do it.
There's no problem a little horsepower can't solve. Northern Tool and Equipment.
Taking a family of 5 to the amusement park can cost a small fortune.
Oh, yeah. So to save some money, we thought, hey, let's bring the amusement park to us.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
All right. Step right up, young man. Are you ready to ride the wacky waterfall?
That's just the bathtub with the shower head running.
Nope, it's the wacky waterfall.
It's the shower, Dad.
Waterfall.
Wacky.
There's an easier way to save. To get a free rate quote, go to geico.com. Then buy online, over the phone, or at your local Geico office.
Green light. Hey, girl. School zone. I'm getting hungry. Car changing lanes. You want to meet me for pizza? Stop sign. Intersection clear. Yeah, street. Pizza sounds good. Ballin Street? Girlin Street!
It's hard to concentrate on 2 things at once, like texting and driving. Stop the text, stop the wrecks. How will you stop texting and driving? Tell us at stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to After Hours AM, the Criminal Code, everybody. I'm your host, Joe Sturgis, right along with me.
Eric Olson and
Dr. Clarissa Cole.
Dr. Cole, I know we have a strange case, and I read through it, and it's really, even by our standards, quite odd. And so I'm going to step aside, let Eric do the intro, and then you're going to take us through the whole tale. It's really weird. Like I said, even by our standards. Wow.
this is a lean case, so I don't have all that much to say anyway. But the spooky crimes of October continue on After Hours AM, the Criminal Code. And don't forget, my friends, we're on True Crime every Wednesday night, 9 to 11 Eastern, with you have just heard from, Joel Sturgis, Eric Olson, and our secret weapon forensic psychologist, Dr. Clarissa Cole, with an examination of 17-year-old killer vampire boy Matthew Hardman, led by none other than Dr. Cole. We stake the vampire as all of our interview or spotlight cases occur at 10 o'clock. And, of course, from 9 to 10, we review, as we just did, the true crime headlines. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Cole. This is the case of the vampire killer. I think that's ambiguous. It sounds like he's going around killing vampires. I prefer
vampire hunter.
I prefer killer vampire boy.
Yes, that sounds that does roll off the tongue.
Thank you. All right, Clarissa, I turn it over to you.
All right, this is back in 2002, I believe. His name is Matthew Hardman, and he was only 17 at the time in Britain, living in a small community in North Wales. And what's interesting to me about him is that he doesn't have the troubled upbringing that a lot of people do that commit violence later in life. He had a fairly normal upbringing. He was a paper boy from ages 13 through 17. He was, quote, remarkably normal, doing well in school, working jobs. And he even had a girlfriend, which of sorts, a German 16-year-old girl, like a foreign exchange student, whom he met with every now and then. But unbeknownst to pretty much everybody, he developed sort of a fascination. And before I really get into what that was about, Eric, I know, well, Joel, you also have some other kids that are a bit older. Like, Eric, have you noticed your kids like really getting into something when they're in their adolescence? Like they're just deep into some subject or another?
Oh, sure. I think my son, both younger kids. The older kids, it's kind of a different era because they're so much older. Certainly for a while, my oldest son, he was into baseball really deeply. He was a huge Ken Griffey Jr. fan and Seattle Mariners fan. I mean, he was obsessive for a while. He kind of is a kind of guy, now he's 31 years old, who kind of goes from topic to topic and really dives deeply into it and then kind of moves on. The one he stayed with, of course, is his profession and his fascination with archaeology, which is kind of a combination of history and mankind and psychology, and it's lots of things. Literature all go together. Physical science. He had to become a diver because he wanted to be a maritime archaeologist, which is what he is, or a marine archaeologist, which he is. So he had to pick up some skills along the way in order to do that. As far as the younger kids go, I mean, they've both been so wrapped up in music and performing, so singing and acting kind of really their whole lives. So I guess that would be their obsessions that Lily now is in college for. She's in the acting program at University of Cincinnati. And I would be, honestly, at this point, pretty surprised if Alex does not follow in her footsteps. Not that he is a slavish copier at all. His style is really quite different. And they're actually kind of better at different things. So it's not a case of, sometimes you might wonder, is he just copying? Is he just following? But no, he's very much his own guy. But the two of them, the two younger ones, certainly their obsessions have been with singing and acting and I suppose performing in general.
My daughter's is really easy. By the way, my little girl, princesses. That's it. Sleeping Beauty, Ariel, you name it. She's obsessed with Disney princesses. That's where she's at in life.
And that's, I want to say that that's really a part of normal development, right? Because a kid's world, especially when they're much younger, like Joel, you're talking about in the younger years, like her life is really circumscribed to what you and your wife do and what you guys are into and what you let her be exposed to. She doesn't get to be exposed to the entire world yet. And like Eric, your kids are a bit older where they can be exposed to these other things. But I think it's really normal for a teen to get really into something. Like, I'm trying to think of so I was really into theater as well when I was a teenager. Like, that was my thing. Do you have anything that you guys would admit to that you were really into?
Oh, let's see. When I was a young kid, I used to love, and back in the 80s, this is a little more acceptable than it is. I guess it's not that bad now. I was huge into professional wrestling, man. I loved Hulk Hogan.
What's wrong with that?
I loved Hulk Hogan, man. I loved him. I loved all that stuff. In fact, I used to go, I'd say about every other weekend or whenever they come up to the WWF, or back then WWF, but down WWE shows, my dad would take me, and he hated wrestling. But he would sit there, and I'd be, oh my God, we're going to go to wrestling. And I was 17, and I ran into a guy named Ken Patera. Does anyone remember him? He was an Olympian wrestler, right?
Oh, wow.
And he ran, my dad knew him. He was from the area, and they knew each other. And he was, and he ran something called the AWA, American Wrestling Alliance. I'm sure you guys have heard that one, right? Baron Von Raschke, the Crusher, right? Those iconic guys. Well, I wanted to be a wrestler at that point in my life because I'd been exposed to it. Dad, I want to go. I walked in. There was a Sunday morning. I'll never forget this. It was a Sunday morning, and the newspapers passed his eyes, and I walk in, and I was saying, I want to do Mom and Dad. Well, my mom's like, well, what do you want to do? I want to be a pro wrestler. My father's
very practical.
Yes, exactly. My father's, the paper slowly creeped below his eye line, and he killed me with one word: no. And it went right back up. Right back up. But there's a school. and I really want to go, but it's 500 miles away, and I need your permission to be able to go. And of course, the paper comes back down, and he says, you're going to get a real job. Goes right back up. That
settled that.
That settled it. You're going to college. That settled it. You're going to go to college. That was it.
Wow.
That was it.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. I mean, what about you, Eric? Was there anything that you? I
had a period. I was younger. I was probably between, let's say, I don't know, maybe 8 and about 12, where I was just obsessed with the Southern California professional sports teams. It wasn't even so much the sports themselves. It was those teams. So way back, this shows how old I am, it was the Rams.
Sure. And they're back in LA, by the way.
They are.
Yeah.
The first time around, it was the LA Rams, and it was the Lakers, and it was the Dodgers. To a lesser extent, the Angels. I was always much more of a Dodger fan. So it was kind of everything about them and the magic, like their colors, it was magic. And when we would go to games, I definitely went to more baseball than anything else of those three sports. And I would just pour over the program. And as if any of the companies that advertised in that program were somehow special because you're in the
program. You're special.
So I was really, and I had uniforms, I was never particularly good at football. I was okay at basketball. I was good at baseball. So that's the one I ended up sticking with the longest. And I was a left-handed pitcher, so I was completely obsessed with Sandy Koufax. Still am. He's still my favorite baseball player ever. So that was one period. Then when I got a little bit older, I got an electric guitar for Christmas when I was 13.
And that changed everything.
Man, did I throw myself into that. I just was so into music, and I wanted to learn the songs and play the songs. And I worked really pretty hard at it. It took me a while to figure out how. I thought, well, you just go out and buy the books, right? You buy the song books. That's how you learn it. You buy the music. No, you got to learn to play it by ear in rock and pop music. Sure, you can get the chords and you can get information, but that's not really how it's played. So I had to learn all that. It did kind of change. I did stay always a really big baseball fan, and still am, for that matter. And yeah, sports in general. Love the Olympics and all that. I'm still kind of I'm a little iffy on football. I know you guys are huge NFL fans, but I'm in the middle on that. And over the years, probably because the Cavaliers with LeBron became so good, I became a really big NBA fan again after lying dormant from, way back when I was a huge Lakers fan. So those are a few of my obsessions, and that's probably enough.
Well, what's interesting to me about that, though, and Eric, you just touched on it, is that the things that we get really into when we're that age, even young, like Joel and Eric, you're both talking about even younger than I was thinking, that stays with us. Like, I'm still a big performing arts fan. I'm still a big, theater geek and all of that, because that's what I was into at that age, because you dive into it. It's your own bubble world, kind of, where you're just into that thing. And so it's really hard for me with this case with Matthew Hardman, this teenager, because he was a teenager. He was only 17 years old when he started getting really into, and I mean, this is going to sound weird, but before we get too weird about it, he was very into vampires, the idea of vampires.
Well,
which,
sure. I liked vampires as a kid. I thought those stories are very intriguing.
Right. And like, I loved like ghost stories and all of that stuff when I was a kid. And all of us, I think admittedly so, still are into the paranormal, the idea of the paranormal. And like, this was 2002. So it was before Twilight, that franchise. So it was before it became like an everyday sort of a thing, but still Interview with a Vampire was out.
It was.
Wes Craven's Dracula was out. So like, there were all these movies that sort of normalized this idea for people of that age. So he came into contact with it at, when those movies came out, and he became really kind of preoccupied with the idea of vampirism, which I don't think is as weird as people may have thought it was.
Yeah. Well, back then that was big. Remember that when Interview came out with the vampire? Anne Rice was everywhere. Everybody wanted to, be a bloodsucker at that point for Halloween, or they want to do this, they want to do that. Yeah, no, you're absolutely correct. The Wes Craven. Now, was that the Dracula with Keanu Reeves in it? I'm trying to remember.
I think it is. Yes, I think it is. They went on to run it. Arguably one of the worst ones ever made. And yes, I love Keanu Reeves. I'll just say it.
I do remember all that coming up, but yeah, I remember the obsession.
Yeah, and then after Twilight, it was like, oh my God,
it's all over after that.
Get it? Like, are all 12-year-old girls going to be attracted to weird, pasty vampire kids? I guess so, right? Like, that's how it just went for a while.
If they sparkle.
I never saw any of those movies.
I was actually somewhat forced to see one of them. Really? I swear to God. Yeah. Oh my God. It was someone that I was dating at the time. His no, not the guy. It was his brother was married. All right, so he had a married brother, and the sister-in-law would have been, for me.
Yes.
Really was just appalled that I had never seen.
You've never seen them? So she popped them right on the DVD player, didn't she? Right there and then. You have to see this.
Yes, I know, and I saw the first one, and I'm like, why is this happening to me? I did. Yeah,
they weren't real. Well, let's face it, they were for tween and young teen girls.
That's exactly it. So this kid,
and I was very angry at like the whole Bella character. Just putting that out there, because could she be weaker? Anyone? No,
I don't know.
Not a strong female character. Didn't like it. But anyway. This is before that. This kid, Matthew Hardman, was very interested in vampires. And remember, the internet did exist at that point. So he is looking stuff up on the internet, going to books.
Dial-up.
Yeah, right. He's researching it. But nobody really seems to know he's into this except his German girlfriend, right? The 16-year-old. And she's never been named because she was a minor, right? So the German girlfriend they got together one time and they were kind of making out in her bedroom where she was staying. And as they, in the midst of this, he pulled back and he said to her that he believed that she was a vampire.
That she was a vampire?
Correct. Yes.
Oh.
And that she was a local vampire, which of course, she took this as a joke.
A local vampire. You're a local vampire opposed to the, ones that are
as opposed to the worldly ones. Yeah, it was. And,
she's bad. She's nationwide. No, she's local.
Local, yeah. And so she kind of tried to laugh it off, but then he started saying some other things that were more disturbing to her, which is that his community was, quote, perfect for vampires because there were a lot of elderly people in this community, and if they suddenly passed away, nobody would think anything better of it. Right.
Wow, that's so bad to think that way. We got a lot of old bats hanging around, so if you take a couple, out of the herd,
right?
no one will ever know.
Awful. I know nobody will care, right? And this she found even more disturbing. But then when she tried to, just go on with their day, he tried to force her to bite him.
What?
To make him a vampire. Yeah, he started putting his neck toward her mouth to the point where he pinned her down. Yeah, bite me, make me a vampire. And she screamed that some people, parents, adults, actually had to kind of pull him off of her.
Bite me, make me a vampire.
I would say something happened prior to that meeting, prior to that tete-a-tete, that, he had become truly delusional, because he went from it went from kind of idle speculation and kind of random fascination to assumptions.
Maybe she did something.
That right there is where, something happened. When you go from just maybe, whatever, I wonder if, gosh, what an interesting concept. She came from my girlfriend came from outside to this town full of really old bats. I wonder if that was on purpose. It went from that to, I know you are this, or I believe you are this. And I think that's where the break happened.
Exactly right. So it's this escalation that happened so quickly, and that's why I included it when I wrote this up, is because not that was part of the crime. Mm-hmm. It wasn't part of the crime, but it's one of those seminal moments that if someone had really said something, like if somebody had stepped in and intervened at that point, which was 2 weeks before the crime, I wonder if it could have been avoided. No one is at fault here. That's not what I'm saying. It's just that, Eric, I think you hit the nail on the head, that is where the break from reality had happened.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Is that he's trying to get her to bite him. He doesn't understand why she won't. So she gets him pulled off of her. She doesn't see him again. And 2 weeks later, 90-year-old Mabel LaShawn, she lived in his community, right? Somebody that he delivered newspapers to, and that actually had at one point picked him up for school when he missed his bus. So someone that he, in passing, knows, a neighbor, was found dead in her home with 22 stab wounds.
I would have expected bite wounds, but yeah, stab wounds.
It gets far worse. So Miss LaShawn had been relaxing just in a reclining chair watching TV, right? And she actually, a worst part about it is that she had just been widowed like 3 months before this. Her husband had passed away, and she's in a recliner watching TV, right? He forcibly breaks in and begins to stab her, right? And he made these deep incisions in her legs before killing her to drain her of blood. He brought saucepans from her kitchen to collect the blood and drank it. And he then eventually murdered her with the 22 stab wounds. He placed 2 brass pokers, fireplace pokers, in the form of a cross at her feet. He perched a red candle on the mantle at her head. And these are just crime facts. Sorry. He made an 8 by 9 inch incision in her chest cavity.
Oh my God.
Which is huge. And from this gaping wound, he removed her heart.
Good God.
Oh my gosh.
The strength and the time that it takes to open up a chest cavity is a lot. Let's just say it's a lot.
Yeah.
The heart was found. It was left at the residence, but he did remove it. And when the police responded to this horrible crime scene, I mean, who do you even suspect? You know what I mean?
Yeah, where would you begin? What would your list of suspects be for that kind of a heinous crime? And another thing, no one heard all this. I mean, it had to have been a loud affair.
God, yeah.
You know?
You would think so. Although if I believed he did stab her in the chest first, not a fatal wound, but if he punctured the lung, maybe not.
Oh, boy.
No one heard her cry out. And she did live near people, but no one heard anything. So it makes me think that maybe he did puncture a lung. And she was propped, like he positioned the body moved the body after death and did drink her blood. He admits to that and does admit to removing the heart. And eventually, cops struggled for a while, like, oh my God, who would do this? And eventually they came to him, and he didn't put up much of a fight. I mean, he admitted that he did it because he thought that if he did this, he had been looking up, and you guys know more about this than I do, so I'm going to defer to your wisdom. What the heck is a black mass?
Black mass is generally, I'm sure Eric knows this too, is conjuring. Okay. That's a lot of people say it's a conjuring mass. It's a Satan worship, can also be called a black mass.
It's definitely Satan worship.
Yeah. But a lot of times they use a black mass to conjure demonic demons, stuff like that, or try to give yourself power. That's also something they would do in a black mass.
That's what he was trying to do, I guess. He'd been researching that before this event, and he wanted to become a vampire and wanted to know how to do a black mass, but I wasn't really sure what that meant.
Yeah, he's a sick puppy. I mean, even beyond, everything about this is sick.
It can be dark, black witchcraft, anything from that. And it's hard to tell, where do you draw the line between that and Satan worshiping? They're all, if you're doing black magic, seems to me it's about the same thing as Satan worship. But anyway, it's summoning, conjuring. It's a formal black, quote unquote evil ceremony.
Okay, so I guess with this, I'm sorry to take this back to what we were talking about earlier, but I think it's kind of important. Like, Joel, when you used to watch the wrestling way back when you were a kid.
Oh yeah.
Did you believe it was real?
I did. I thought Andre the Giant and Hulk Hogan, brother, really wanted to beat the living tar out of each other.
Right.
And
I
really
what they were
believed
doing
it.
Was real.
Yeah,
right?
I thought for sure it was a brawl and it was going to go down. And what you going to do when Hulkamania runs wild on you? I believed it. I did. I believed it hook, line, and sinker. And unfortunately I did. But then you learn later on in life that, they were actually good buddies.
But how did you learn that? Do you remember?
I remember it just growing up and then meeting through radio, meeting real professional wrestlers. Like I interviewed some big names like The Undertaker, Hulk Hogan, all those guys. And of course off air they were talking like buddies. And then of course, I already knew by that point it was fake, but then that really sealed it that, we were talking and they said, it's basically a choreographed dance at the end of the day, is what they said. It's all mapped out even before we hit the ring. So it's all fake. It's absolutely fake.
But you learned that by
I did.
And
also it was, it was one of these deals of, wait a minute here. Would they really allow two grown men to get in a ring and beat the tar out of each other on live TV? Really? No, they're not going to let that happen. Yeah, those kinds of things.
Right.
Those common sense kind of things that hit you.
Yeah. It's one of those things that you learn over time and growing up and you weren't so into it that you wanted to do it. But what if, that you kept on that urge to do it? But what if you did truly believe it the whole time? Until you became an adult.
It's funny because in my 20s, I actually did some charity pro wrestling bouts.
Oh.
And I did it for charity as a radio personality. And of course, we'd fight and stuff. And they totally took care of us. We never got hurt. And, they put us over, that kind of stuff. But I got to get in the ring. And I had to take a 2-weekend training course. How to take a bump, how to fall, how to do this, how to do that. And it's not as easy as it looks. People actually do get hurt. They truly do get hurt.
So, and I was going to say, I was actually kind of on your behalf. I did want to interject. It's not fake. It's just orchestrated.
Exactly. But people do get hurt.
Yeah.
And
sure they do.
And when they throw you on that, it's not as soft as you would think, that wrestling ring. And when they slam you down, it really, if you do not know how to fall correctly, you can really hurt yourself badly.
Even if you do know how to fall, quote, correctly, I have had stage falls where I'm doing it correctly and I am bruised to hell.
Oh yeah, no, same thing with these guys.
It still hurts.
But but then you realize, hey, it's a show. It's a show. It's entertainment. It's not they're not doing it because they don't like each other. They're doing it for entertainment purposes. They're doing it for the art. And it really is an art. Those guys truly are masters of their art.
And it's one of those things where if you didn't share it with anyone else, like if this was something that you watched and you didn't share, you didn't talk to people, would you ever learn that it was fake? And so, you get back to Hardman's case.
Yeah.
He didn't share it with anyone. And the one person he shared it with just rebuffed him and then refused to speak to him. How does he find out it's not real?
By going to prison.
Yeah. And that is what happened. He went to prison. Yes.
And he became a vampire. But think about this, Clarissa. What if he was a vampire, got sentenced to a life sentence, they live forever? Boy, that guy'd be screwed.
That's why I called him the immortal inmate. I'm like, he's going to be forever. But it's, that's the thing that I would like to talk about in the last half of the show is that his lawyer did not bring up guilty by reason of insanity, and in prison he was not diagnosed with anything.
Interesting.
So,
we got to run a break. We come back. We're going to dive deeper into this. The would-be vampire that found out the hard way that indeed he is not immortal. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back right after this.
Northern Tool and Equipment.
So Daddy's little girl thinks she's going to prom tonight with some punk who calls himself Snake.
Yeah, they grow up so fast.
Well, not if I can help it, they don't.
Okay, here's what you do. When that kid shows up, Dad's going to be doing a few chores around the house.
Huh?
It doesn't matter the chore. What's important is that it requires the use of a 60cc gas-powered chainsaw and possibly a mask.
I think it's showtime.
He's here. Dad, I want you to meet...
All right, let her rip.
What's that, honey? Hi, Snake. Great to meet you. But wait, where are you going?
There's no problem a little horsepower can't solve. Northern Tool and Equipment.
Ranger Station, Ranger speaking.
Yeah, hi. I'd like to report a bear sighting.
Location.
My backyard.
Oh, your backyard.
Try telling a bear that.
I did, and this bear talked back.
Talking bear, that's rich.
No, wait, it was Smokey Bear.
Smokey.
Why didn't you say so?
I did say so.
Continue.
I was burning yard waste.
No, boy.
He told me to burn legally and responsibly, and to remember that if it's too hot to touch, it's too hot to leave.
And as always, he's right. 9 out of 10 wildfires are caused by humans. That means 9 out of 10 wildfires can be prevented.
Yeah, I know that now.
Thanks to me.
Actually, thanks to Smokey.
As usual, the talking bear gets all the credit. Get your Smokey on. Always burn responsibly and contact your local fire department for open burning regulations. Because 9 out of 10 wildfires can be prevented. Brought to you by Smokey Bear, the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council. Learn more at SmokeyBear.com.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Welcome back to After Hours AM, the Criminal Code. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis. Right along with me,
Eric Olson and
Dr. Clarissa Cole.
And when first part of this story was really hard to hear, and we are actually covering Matthew Hardman, and he is the immortal inmate. He had the aspirations of becoming a vampire. Evidently, now I would say he was delusional, but I'm going to stop right there and let Dr. Cole continue where we had left off. If you're just tuning in, like always, you can download this show. The best way you can download this show really is two ways. You can go to criminalcode.com, which is Dr. Cole's website, or you can go to America's-Most-Haunted.com. That is the After Hours AM, America's Most Haunted website. So both ways are great, and if you really, really want to do this, you can go to Blog Talk Radio. We have it there as well. Spreaker, we're there. Pretty much anywhere you're getting your podcast fix, we're right there waiting for you. Just search out After Hours AM, and we're right there. So that being said, let's get right back into it.
Well, okay. One of the reasons, I mean, I brought up this case partially because we're leading up to Halloween, right? And the idea of vampires. But another reason that I brought it up is that I don't know enough about the case because I haven't interviewed Mr. Hardman myself. But something that stood out, not just to me, but also to the judge in his case, was that his lawyer never brought up the idea of not guilty by reason of insanity. It was not used as a defense. It is a defense in Britain. And the judge actually brought it up that, well, since your counsel isn't giving this to me as an option, I cannot weigh it. Thus, he must be guilty. And it's not that he's not guilty of the act. That's not what not guilty by reason of insanity means. It means the person did the act, but that they didn't understand right from wrong at the time, or they weren't able to adequately weigh right from wrong. And in my estimation, Matthew Hardman believed vampirism to be real, very real. And it still makes it wrong, of course, but would that mean that he's competent? And I wonder about that. Like, I wonder what you guys think about that.
Well, I guess what's the underlying, if you had to sit with him, let's just say you sat with him, Clarissa, trying to figure out, maybe even pre-trial, trying to figure out what his game is all about, what would you say he'd be suffering from? Knee-jerk reaction. What would you say he's got?
Knee-jerk reaction would be delusional disorder, and that's where we kind of hit a sticking point, is that Mr. Hardman hasn't been diagnosed with anything inside of prison either, at least not that has come out. And that's what's really confounding to me, because I can't see somebody going through all the trouble that he went through without believing in it. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't make sense at all. Yeah, he had to have believed in it wholeheartedly. Otherwise, he would not have gone through the ritual and the murder and everything else and drinking the blood. Okay, no one in their right mind, you would think, would not do that. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So here we are, and I want to say, just looking at the case as a layman here, the dude's insane. He's as fruity as they come.
Well, and therein lies the problem, so they say. And this is where, I mean, again, sorry, I don't mean to be this sort of like a psych lesson, but it is something I want people to understand, is that when people think of someone believing something that isn't real, delusions, that's kind of the definition of it, they usually think of that in terms of a psychotic disorder like schizophrenia. So like, basically, like, they're crazy on a number of levels. You see these people portrayed in the media a lot, right? Even in movies, where they're crazy, they're crazy top to bottom, right? They believe that aliens have invaded their skull. They look crazy. They see things that aren't there.
Sure.
They're crazy on every level imaginable. And in schizophrenia, that's what you are seeing more. You're seeing the hallucinations. They're responding to things that aren't there. They believe things that aren't real. Their behavior is odd. Their speech is odd. But in delusional disorder is very quiet, and it's very different. They don't have the same psychotic issues that other disorders have. They're not hearing things that aren't there. They're not seeing things that aren't there. They're not having the word salad, which is what they call the psychotic speech.
Yeah.
They seem completely normal until you hit on that one belief that is not normal. And until you get there, they seem as normal as you or I.
Wow.
Delusional disorder is extremely quiet, but it can be extremely dangerous. And it is still a psychotic disorder.
So they make their own narrative in their head is what they're doing. This belief, this strong belief,
Right.
and what have you.
Yes, and it could be about anything. It could be bizarre or non-bizarre. It could be just I knew a person at one point that believed that the world was getting information about him through means that he didn't sanction, like just electronically through the air.
That makes sense. Years ago, when I was living in this apartment and this neighbor lady was completely normal. You'd run into her, right? And she'd talk with you, until you talked about the evening news. And she would stop what she was doing and look at you straight on and go, they're talking to me through the TV.
See?
What?
Yes. And that's a delusion. Actually, that's a specific delusion.
They're looking at me and they're talking at me and they're looking at what I'm doing. No, come on.
That's called delusions of reference.
She
That's a
got
very specific
angry
delusion.
when I downplayed it, and I said, "No, don't be." And I used a horrible phrase, "Don't be nuts." Oh, she blew up. It was on at that
to
point.
her, yeah, exactly. To her, it's not delusional. To her, it's absolutely true. And so delusions of reference, right?
Yeah.
We could get into that. Like Son of Sam referenced, David Berkowitz referenced delusions of reference. Do I think he was having them? No, I think it was an excuse. But that's what that's called. Someone speaking to you through the television or the radio is called delusions of reference. So if Matthew Hardman was having delusions specifically about vampirism, how is that not a defense for insanity?
Yeah.
To me, this sounds just like absolute legal malfeasance is what this sounds like a case of. And the guy obviously is extraordinarily dangerous. I was looking up once we got to the story, once I saw your write-up of it, and was just poking around a little bit looking for some other pictures and whatnot, and he is considered absolutely out there and extraordinarily dangerous right now. They say he's just smile. When he went to prison, he was smiling in a boastful manner, like, I belong here, I deserve this, this is the coolest, And he is held in great fear in Wales, and so it's not as though he has, shrunk back down to normal or whatever the case may be, because these were fairly recent stories kind of checking up on this extremely notorious case and this notorious killer. So the bottom line here is there should be all kinds of attention on this case. And again, it's not that he should be let loose or given any lesser sentence or punishment or whatever the case may be, but he's clearly, mentally ill and should be in a place for mentally ill people, not in the general penitentiary. Excuse me, I had a little internal burp there. Penitentiary population. That just seems absolutely legal malfeasance.
Yeah, I still can't believe that his lawyer, I mean, it would be the first thing that I would bring up is that, yes, this crime was horrible. No one will ever forget it. A life was lost. However, this is what my client believes, and is always going to believe. Because that's the other thing about delusional disorder. It doesn't go away.
So it's always going to be there. So Correct. Like the lady that thinks that at the time it was whoever it was, Peter Jennings is talking to her through the TV. She's always going to believe the newsman is looking directly at her and talking to her.
Most likely. See, that's the thing with delusional disorder. Now, if it's part of an overarching psychotic disorder like schizophrenia, maybe they could take meds that help with the schizophrenia and the delusions start to dissipate. But if it's just delusional disorder on its own, that does not remit well at all. Those beliefs are there to stay. So now, the question is, can we moderate them to where they're not dangerous
So
anymore?
Now, if this guy... I'm talking, of course, hypothetically, we're able to get help and get these medication and get these things under control, he very well might have been able to be released and live somewhat of a normal life. Is that what you're saying? Even after he paid his debt to society?
No, I'm not saying that at all.
What are you saying then?
No,
I mean,
no. Likely he's still dangerous. No, see, that's the thing is that, like I said, delusional disorder doesn't go away. It doesn't remit. They're going to continue to have those delusions. So unless you're convinced that he is no longer dangerous because of it. Yeah. So he can still believe that. That's fine. As long as he believes he's achieved vampirism and he doesn't need to kill anybody else, great. But if he thinks he needs to,
needs to feed every 30 days to keep his power up.
Then we're in trouble. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't expect the delusions to go away. They would just have to be nonviolent in content.
Gotcha. Well, this guy, looking at his pictures, I'm looking at some current pictures. He looks rough. He looks like he's got some wild eyes about him. You know what I'm saying?
And actually, his girlfriend said that too. His 16-year-old girlfriend did attend the trial, and she was very upset when he was convicted. But she said that his eyes looked different, that he looked kind of removed from himself if that makes sense, which is not uncommon in psychotic disorders. So do I think that there is psychosis and lingering psychosis? Yes, I do. I wonder about the justice that was done because it was not brought up in trial. And that to me just seems unfathomable.
Yeah, a good attorney would have latched onto that, in my mind anyway, right away. And you would have thought the judge would have stopped it and said, oh, whoa, time out. Go talk to your client.
Well, the judge did kind of try to, on multiple occasions, kind of suggest that this is not the best way to go. And nobody really kind of latched onto that.
That judge in Wales didn't have the ability to take matters in his own hands then at that point, like maybe here in the States. They have a little more leeway, so I'm told. So he couldn't adjudicate him on that disorder, or at least bring it up because the defense never brought it up.
Well, as far as I know, the judge can't, here either. The judge can't introduce a defense that the defense has not raised. I think he gave the defense enough hints that... Well, yeah,
I would say so. By the way, you might want to go talk to your client about, I don't know, him being a little nuts. You might want to go do that.
But it never happened. And the reason too that I bring this up is that, believe it or not, there are actually equivalent cases. There's the case of James Riva. So this was way back in 1980, sort of before the whole vampire craze thing. Yeah, sort of hit, right? So James Riva, murdered his own grandmother. He shot and murdered his own grandmother because he believed that he was a 700-year-old vampire.
Well, why would he have to shoot Granny?
Exactly. The cookies not taste good or what?
He said that he told psychiatrists he thought his grandmother came to feed on him as he slept, and he believed that he was satisfying his masters in the netherworld of vampires by making this kill. So basically, he believed she was an elder vampire that he was sent to kill.
Oh. Well.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying it makes sense to us, but that's what he thought.
Well, then.
Yeah, exactly. And so he, it looks like, I thought he did try to shoot her, but he stabbed his disabled grandmother.
Why would a vampire use a gun?
And then shot her. He shot her with gold-plated bullets.
What?
And set the house on fire.
Well, hold on. Why would a vampire at 700 years old use a gun? I would have thought a stake to the heart would have worked. Really, if you want to go by the lore. The vampire lore.
No. If I'm going to be the victim of one of these things, I'm going to be like, let's forego the stake. I think they use gold-plated bullets
You
now.
know what I'm saying, though, right? It doesn't fit the lore. Anyhow, yes, I'd rather be shot than stabbed with a stake to the heart. Absolutely. If I got to pick one. Shoot me and get done really fast, or stab me and I might lay there for 6 hours. I get you. I get where you're going with that. But this case here that we're talking about, this guy, this Matthew Hardman, I'm looking to some of these court documents here that are online. Yeah, all the earmarks were there. I'm not anywhere near as skilled as you are, Clarissa, but even I can see the glaring inconsistencies where he could have been. That defense could have been raised at any time because he clearly was deranged. He told the police this is what he was doing. He copped the black mass. He told them everything. He said he was a vampire or wanted to be a vampire. It was all there. It really was all there in black and white in the statements to the police.
And even when you raise, just to make it clear too to those that are listening, even when you raise the defense of not guilty by reason of insanity, I want to say that especially in America, I don't know about other countries. I'm not going to speak to there, but especially here, there are a lot of times when the jury doesn't go for it anyway. Honestly, if the crime is bad enough, there are lots of times when, I used to work on, just to remind people, I used to work on death row, the only death row in the state. And I had a caseload of individuals who were mentally ill, who, in my mind, some of them anyway, were not competent at the time they committed their crimes, but they were sent to death row anyway.
Is that the temporary insanity people, though? The ones, let's just say,
No, I'm talking about the people that are still absolutely psychotic and were psychotic at the time.
Yeah,
but the jury convicted them anyway.
I was going to say, you hear a ton of cases, or at least you used to hear more, like, for instance, the crime of passion, right?
Oh, first, let me make this clear. Temporary insanity, crime of passion, I don't believe in it. Never have.
No?
Never will.
You don't think there's temporary insanity where something drives you so nuts that you're willing to kill over it?
You would not believe the amount of cases like that are premeditated when you look at them.
Really?
So no, I don't.
Yeah, well, you would know.
No, I don't.
You know,
they bought a gun. They bought bullets. They went to the range. Blah blah blah. And then they had temporary insanity. Really?
Well, that is true. That is true.
I got a bridge in New York. I can tell you. No, the whole temporary insanity, like crime of passion thing. I have seen thousands of inmates now. The amount of times that I've actually seen that be real, a handful.
And how many of them used guns that they bought and went to the range of practice with first?
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, stabbing instruments, and that where they had domestic violence 2 months before that, where they tried to stab her and didn't. I mean, no. The whole temporary insanity thing, by the way, don't try it. It won't work. It doesn't work. It never will. It's a bad defense. It's always been a bad defense. Like people that especially people with domestic violence histories, that they tend to be the ones that do, claim the crime of passion. If you're in a contentious marriage where you are talking with your coworkers about how your life would be easier without your spouse, guess what? Temporary insanity is not going to work. Just not.
Yeah, don't be talking about that.
But that's what happens. Those are always the people that claim temporary insanity.
Yeah, by the way, I'm offing her Wednesday. I'm just letting everyone know.
Like, okay, here's a little primer for all of those out there that think that they could claim insanity. The people that actually successfully have a defense of insanity are people that tell their lawyers that they're not. Like James P. Riva. Yeah. He was clearly insane, claimed to his lawyer that he wasn't, and didn't want to use the insanity defense. Remember the woman that wore a diaper and traveled across country?
Yes.
To tell another.
Yes.
Also didn't want to use the insanity defense. People that should use the insanity defense always go to their lawyers and go, what are you talking about?
Yeah. The woman that drove 27 hours wearing a diaper and then stopped and murdered people. Yeah, right. I remember her. Yeah, that old yarn.
Those are the people that the insanity defense is reserved for. And those are the attorneys that should know better. And in Hardman's case, his attorney should have known better, and they didn't. But the people that are like, oh yeah, it was temporary insanity, it was a crime of passion. Like, that's the other thing too. When you think of crime of passion, it's taken time to build up those feelings. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Typically, it's usually somebody that maybe, let's say, here's the classic example for crime of passion: a man who comes home and finds his wife in bed with another man.
Sure.
Okay, typical crime of passion. He shoots both of them, goes to his lawyer. It's a crime of passion, but usually the man came home early because he suspected his wife was cheating, bought a weapon because he suspected his wife was cheating, started looking at her email because he suspected.
Gotcha. There's a pattern. I mean? Yeah,
there's a pattern. It's not accidental, because typically when it's an accidental discovery, people don't know what to do.
Yeah,
they just freeze.
Deer in the headlights.
Yeah. Like, oh my God, I came home and expected to find my wife sick at home on the couch, and oh no,
there was the mailman. The milkman stopped by.
Yeah, there's usually not a
and we don't even drink milk.
Yeah, it's like, wait a minute, I don't understand. That's a more common reaction.
I would imagine. So. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, the one thing we haven't talked about is just the appeal of vampires. And of course, I think in this case, it's kind of a combination of, he's a young guy, 17 years old. So you kind of have the sexiness. They're the sexiest of the monsters. You know, zombies are not sexy. Frankenstein is not
really
sexy.
No, it's just kind of pieced together.
Werewolves, they're too scary to be sexy.
Unless you're in Twilight, evidently.
Yeah, unless you're Team Jacob for some reason.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well,
sorry.
They had sparkly vampires. So, but vampires are, still have more humanity, retain more humanity. They are not necessarily voluntarily in that position, so they may bemoan the position that they're in. Involuntary immortality. All this, of course, depends on which worldview, that you're buying into, because there's so many different rules. Kind of every story universe has its own rules. Many of these vampire rules were created by Bram Stoker, or at least collected by Bram Stoker for Dracula. And then, of course, new ones came along for the film, the first filming of Dracula, or filmings of Dracula. And so that's evolved. So a lot depends on, which world, which universe your vampire is in, as far as what the rules are and how long they live and what they need to do to live, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But, if you can live forever and be a sleek, sexy guy, and all you have to do is periodically, drink some old lady's blood, that might have some appeal.
Yeah. No, it is kind of an appealing sort of monster story out of all of them.
Well, sure. I mean, look at Dracula got the girls. You know what I mean? He had that allure, that animal magnetism.
The brides.
Exactly.
Yeah, and for a kid that everybody said that he was kind of shy, that he kept to himself. I think you can see that by looking even at his mugshot, that he's probably not the most outgoing guy. He lived in a very small town. Like, his appeal at that time in his life was probably pretty limited. So the idea that being a vampire, being attractive, being immortal, being irresistible, being outside the rules, like, I can see why all of those things would attract a younger person.
Well,
and the power to mesmerize. Remember,
sure.
all he had to do was, Dracula, all he had to do was look him in the eye.
Follow me.
You were under his power. So, yes, think how appealing that is.
Man, so I'm about to become a vampire now. All I got to do is crack a vein once in a while. Come on, I'm done with that.
Here's the real question. I'm actually being serious. Do either of you believe in vampires?
No, personally, I do not. I don't think that there's any real vampires out there.
Well, I mean, are there people who think they're vampires and who drink blood? Yes, there are.
Okay, now,
are they immortal?
Yeah.
Do they have supernatural powers? No, I don't think they do.
Okay.
I think that there's bats. There's bats that are vampire bats, but I think that's the closest thing that we have to a real vampire floating around.
All right, so nobody in our little, because I do not believe in them.
I was gonna say, don't tell me, Clarissa, you believe in vampires. All right, do not go down that turnpike with me. No, don't do it.
No, I definitely don't believe in it. But it's one of those things that has become much less. Because for a psychologist, when you're, I guess, sort of judging delusions, right? There are two categories. So there used to be in the DSM. I don't know that the two categories necessarily exist now, but in the DSM, when I learned it, right, there's bizarre delusions, okay, and non-bizarre delusions. A non-bizarre delusion might be something like, I think the cops are following me. The reason it's non-bizarre is because that could actually happen.
They probably are.
Right? Yeah, it could actually happen. And a bizarre delusion would be something like aliens have implanted something in my skull, would be more bizarre. I guess it really got to me when I was writing up this case, thinking about it, like, is vampirism bizarre or non-bizarre because of what our culture has done to it?
If you look at the real full, thousands actually of years history of vampires, almost every culture has had a vampire-like creature. Now, what it really, the true essence of vampirism is to be a revenant, to return from the dead. All the other stuff is just window dressing. So is it possible that somehow, some way, people are cursed, to return from the dead? And this has been a real fear throughout most of human history, a fear of the dead. That body goes from being a beloved family member to something really feared.
Right.
When they die. And so that's the myth, and that's the background of it. So is such a thing possible? I don't think so in the physical realm. I think it's much more likely, on a spirit level, that there would be a return, and even vampiric behavior from a spirit type activity.
Yeah.
But anyway, I know we're running out of time. I do not think that Dracula-like vampires exist.
I don't believe that either. But for more information on this, if you want to read the write-up for yourself, make sure you drop by thecriminalcode.com. Again, that's thecriminalcode.com. That is Clarissa's website. And, of course, make sure you drop by America's-Most-Haunted.com. Download this episode. Listen to it again. Tell your friends. Until tomorrow night, everyone take care of each other, love each other, and don't suck any blood, all right? You're not a vampire. Thank you for listening to this edition of After Hours AM. And please remember to like us on Facebook and also follow us over on Twitter.